Hi, everyone. It's that time of the week once more. Welcome to the Champ.ie Podcast with a terrific weekend of racing to look forward to. And back by popular demand, or should I say in the shape of absence of any alternative volunteers, please welcome the three wise men who will be tipping you winners, or that's what it says on this sheet of paper in front of me. They are, in no particular order, Barry Doyle, the founder, the man responsible for all this nonsense. The legend that is Ronan Groom of the Irish Field, and Davy Boland. Welcome to you, Davy, as well, as we look ahead to cards with a great day in Britain on Saturday and a very good card at Navan on Sunday as well. Let's get straight into this and go straight to Haydock Park. The first thing to say about Haydock is, unusually for that track, ground a mixture of good and good to soft in places. Go straight in, and the race to start with is the 150. A small field for this Betfair graduation chase, but potentially going to tell us a great deal with Brave Man's Game in against Itchy Feet. Here's a man who's never had itchy feet, Barry Doyle.
Cheers to you, Mr. Vince. It's 4 weeks to the wedding. Nice drop of wine there. Brave Man's Game. He's actually shortened up since the last time I looked at the prices, but 4 to 6. Geez, I don't think anything, I suppose, can give this horse weight. In here, I thought he was foot perfect, wasn't he, on debut? And I'd say he's plenty of pace as well for 2.5 miles. Long term, I think he's going to be a 3-mile chaser, obviously. But probably if you were still getting 4 to 6, I think the best price out there on the market is 4 to 6. Probably still a bit of value in that. I don't like backing odds on shots, but I think he probably wins here. He'll probably end up a stone better over fences. I think it's pretty simple for the graduation chase in 150. I think Brave Man's Game has to be in the weekend multiples.
Steering job, Ronan, if it jumps?
No, geez, I couldn't touch him at 4 to 6. Mike, look, he did it nicely at. He won first time up very nicely, jumped really well actually, and he's beat Fusel Raffles, and I suppose you can call it a form boost. Fusel Raffles going on, but he was obviously very fortunate to go and win the Charlie Hall. He's against elder horses again here, and look, I know he only faces 3 rivals, but 3 of them are okay, and most notably Itchy Feet, who I think is actually quite good value at 4 to 1. Everybody knows how well Ollie Murphy's horses are running, as well as they've ever been, and I really liked Itchy Feet's first time up at Aintree in the Old Roan. Thought he stayed on nicely that day behind All Mankind, who's a pretty quality operator. That form has obviously been very well boosted by Midnight Shadow going on to win the Paddy Power, and there's nice horses in behind them as well. So if he comes on for that at all, that was first time cheek pieces that day as well, which is interesting. I think he has a bit of scope to improve again, Itchy Feet, and all these horses obviously running really well. Look, I just think Brave Man's Game is a little bit overrated. Take it that he did jump well first time out, and he is one of the best novices from last season. I just thought some of his form did leave a bit to be desired when he won at Newbury specifically, and he got beat at Aintree then as well. So Itchy Feet for me, I just thought it was a bit rock solid, and I didn't think he'd be 4 to 1. I think he'd be a bit closer. I don't dispute that Brave Man's Game should be a short price favourite, but more than willing to take him on at that price, and Itchy Feet for me.
Yeah, beaten by 66 to 1 shot of hoist, and you're at Aintree. Davey, not very often you look at a race like this and see the Skelton brothers with a 14 to 1 outsider.
Yeah, I wouldn't be suggesting to have a bet on any of the 4 horses in this race. But all I will say is, if Brave Man's Game can't beat these 3, he's not what they think he is or what they say he is. And I get what Ronan's saying, that he thinks he's slightly overrated. I'm not so sure. I'll still go with what they think about him, that they think he's the real deal. They couldn't see him beaten last season in Cheltenham. Obviously Bob Ollinger is a different animal, isn't he, to many. But this lad should win this if he's what they say he is. But I wouldn't be backing Itchy Feet because I'm not a fan. And obviously I wouldn't back Brave Man's Game at those odds. But all I'd say, my opinion on this, if they think he is what he is, he has to be winning this and win this smartly.
So we move on to the big handicap on the card, this handicap hurdle. Cracking contest. We've been here before, haven't we? Down the bottom, right place, right time. Emmett Mullins. Riggs, I suspect, will go off as favourite. And I know we've got at least one Brinkley fan in the house. Ronan, have first innings on this one. This is a very, very good handicap.
Sorry, I muted myself there. Probably the most sense I talked all night. Yeah, look, it's very good, Mike. Obviously wide open as usual. It's the usual kind of look to the race. Lots of 5 and 6 year olds there jumping up to the 3 mile trip. Could be anything really. So that makes it really hard to decipher. Like as you mentioned, right place, right time is probably the most interesting horse in the race. Paul Byrne, I know him well, works for the Racing Post. A really shrewd operator. Probably picked this horse up from Kevin O'Donnell, who's only down the road from Emmett Mullins actually in Goran. He had some nice form last season. Most notably, he was very close to the boss's Oscar in a race. He won a maiden hurdle the year before as well, quite well. Big horse called Capilano Bridge. So he's not like one of these ones that's an absolute come from nowhere, but he is quite lowly rated in Ireland. He's only 108 over hurdles in Ireland. He's got to run over 100. Got to run off 125 here. That's quite a big jump, but you have to respect Emmett Mullins here. I'll just give a good mention to the other Irish horse as well, Dr. Duffy. He's actually quite well handicapped if you take into account his Irish mark. He's 147 over fences in Ireland, but he can run off 139 here and just £2 higher than his hurdles mark. Knowing Charles Burns, he's probably saved him for this. He ran second to Stratham, which is quite decent form at Thurles last time. That was probably just a prep. He comes back up to 3 miles now. Thought he was interesting at 6-1. Booked Adam Wedge, really, really good jockey. And then look, with the British form, there's any amount of horses in there that could be anything over the trip. Orby's Legend, Bass Rock, Flight Deck, down Levant, even for Evan Williams. They're all stepping up to this trip and could be anything really. But if you push me for one, Mike, I just thought I was quite surprised to see Dr. Duffy up at around 14-1, 16-1, considering it's Charles Burns, considering he looks like he's been laid out for the race, and he's quite well handicapped on his Irish ratings if you take into account his chase mark. So that'll do for me.
Yeah, not Davy Russell's favourite horse, I would think, after what happened at Limerick last October. Mr. Doyle, I've one word to say to you. Brinkley?
No. Needs a softer, doesn't he? Yeah, I like Brinkley, but it's funny you're talking about the Irish Raiders there. Emmett Mullins, Charles Burns and Mick Winters. That's a trio going to Haydock on Saturday. Of course, we'll hear from Mick Winters later on in the show. But yeah, the one I absolutely love Orby's Legend. I love the way he done it at Chepstow. Over a trip, I think that was plenty sharp for him. He's lightly raced. He only had 5 runs in his life. A 5-year-old with 5 runs. I think this lad is very unexposed. I absolutely love him, and I think he's good value here. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of support for him on the day. Hobbs's horses are going well. I think he's up to 20% strike rate at the moment. Off a nice enough weight, 11 stone 1. I thought, as I said, it was quite sharp for him at Chepstow. Just like the way he did it. A step up and trip on slightly softer ground as well. I think it could be anything. He's the one for me in this. In actual fact, it is a competitive race, but I'll be having a good cut on him on Saturday. Orby's Legend. There is one who has come in for a bit of support as well. Another 5-year-old for Jane Williams and Chester Williams combination. I liked Gladiator Allen. I liked the way he won at Ascot last year in January time. Kind of disappointed a couple of runs in handicap company afterwards. He has had a run this season already. He was well beaten at Fosslass over 3 miles. But I think with a run under his belt, I think he could be quite unexposed as well off 129. But a strong fancy for RB's Legend each way at 7-1.
And Davey, it's one of those races, isn't it, where you can't put a line through anything with a total feeling of confidence, can you?
No, that's right. Like, it's very interesting race. It's not often. I know I say it not often. I agree with Ronan, but geez, I never agree with Barry.
Who does?
No, I know, but I agree with a lot. I agree with a lot what he says about Orby's Legend. I like him. He's very interesting. Obviously, it's very interesting with Emmett and Charles Burns having horses in the race. Dr. Duffy is very interesting, like Ronan said, at a big price. But a horse that I like is Ask Dylan for Fergal O'Brien at a huge price. Could be 25-1, maybe 20s. With a very good £7 claim and rider, Peter Kavanagh. He used to be based with Colin Bowe. He's now with Donald McCain in the UK. And he actually rode a winner in Cheltenham last week for Fergal O'Brien. If you look back at his last two runs, I know he finished 4th and finished 6th, but he was running in very good company. And with Peter taking the 7 off and bringing back down to 11 stone, I chanced this lad in what is a very tricky and competitive handicap hurdle at a big price.
Well, I'm in the flight deck camp. A winner for the O'Neills would not come as a surprise. As we move on to the big race itself, we'll hear from Mick Winters shortly, who's got the outsider here, Chatham Street Lad. The Betfair Chase, huge, significant contest in so many ways. Remember this, since 2005, when Kingscliff won the first running, only 4 trainers have saddled the winner, and none of them Irish. So there's a right hoodoo here for Rachel Blackmore and Sean Quinlan, who ride the Irish Raiders to try and bury. And can Bristol Demai join Cordo Star on 4 wins? Davey, you have first innings on this one.
That's interesting. I didn't know there was only 3 trainers. I suppose it makes sense with Nichols running amok in this race for several years. Obviously, APlusTard is the best horse in the race, but it's interesting that he's been beaten on his seasonal reappearance in the last 3 seasons. First at Gorn, when he came from France's first run for Henry, and then in Navan the last 2 years. Now, I know they were both over 2 mile. I think Ballyushian beat him, and I can't remember what beat him last year. But he... obviously he's a star horse, but you got to remember that he's been beaten those 3 times on his first run, and I don't know. He's very short. It's hard to back him at 6-4, isn't it? First run. Next destination, I don't think. I'd say there's a longer plan with him now. I'd say the National will be his plan. Mick Winters, fairly ambitious, isn't it? Bristol Demay, I know he's a good record in the race, but he's just a horse I've never warmed to. I'm going to give a chance on Waiting Patiently, simply because I know he's a very frustrating horse, right? And a lot of people wouldn't be a fan of him, and he's only ran 3 times over 3 miles, and he was unfortunate to unseat and fall. And his only other time when he finished over 3 miles was second to Frodon in the King George. I just think 3 miles, flat track is what he needs. And the change of stable, not that his last connections did anything wrong with him, but I just think the change of scenery. I know that Christian's delighted with how he's going, how he's settled in. At 6-1, I'm going to go with him because at the end of the day, he has massive amount of ability. He couldn't trust really a lot of the others, bar APlusTard. So I'll go Waiting Patiently and hope he wins for Brian and Christian.
And the answer to your question, the horse that beat APlusTard was Castle Grace Paddy.
That's the one,
at Navan, but the extraordinary thing was that was over 2 miles. And the stat about the trainers, as I said, the first one in 2005 was Robert Allner. 1 win for Peter Bowen with Snoopy Loopy. Otherwise, Twiston Davis, Tizard and Nichols have cleaned up every year. And is Nichols going to clean up again, Ronan?
He could do, yeah. I'd give him a chance. I'd be more sweet on him than Davy was, just because, as you say, Mike, Nichols's record in the race, and I think Next Destination's been quite fragile horse. So knowing Nichols and knowing his kind of target kind of mind, the way he sets targets for horses, his first time cheek pieces here as well, I could see him being ready to roll. You say the Irish horses don't have a great record in, but not many of them come over, Mike. So I wouldn't make as a big a deal out of it, I guess.
Kicking King got beaten in, I think, the first year, and I think that probably is why.
Yes, of course. Like it's quite close to the John Durkin, which would be a race a lot of Irish horses would be saved for as well. But it's interesting after APlusTard comes over. I'd actually be more worried about him first time out, and I don't get this idea that he's running over 2 miles, so you excuse him. Like one of those years he finished second at Navan to Ballyusheen. He won the big 2 mile grade 1 at Leopardstown. Straight after that he beat Chacun Poursois. So like he's shown the benefit there for running over 2 miles. I don't see that as a reason that he got beaten first time out. I'd also worry about him on good ground. He's been pulled out on account of fast ground before. So, he's the best horse in the race. He's got the best form in the race, but he's first time up here in a really strong race. I think he's more of a lay at 6-4 than a back. Bristol de Mai, I'd give a big chance that you can't write him off at Haydock. Is excellent form in the race. This is going to be his Gold Cup, whereas it's APlusTard's Gold Cup is the actual Gold Cup, which is obviously in March. Davy makes a good case for waiting patiently. He this could be his Gold Cup as well, as if you want to make that case. And he always goes well fresh. Interesting first time out for Christian Williams, and don't forget Royal Pagaille as well, who is another horse who's a good record at Haydock. Now, good ground is a bit of a worry for him. Both of his wins came on soft ground as well, but he had a good excuse in the Gold Cup. Both of his 2 back shoes came off, and Benicia Williams reported that he was very, very lame when he finished. They were more than happy to give him a go in the Gold Cup on slightly quicker ground. So I think if they're happy to run here, they walk the course on Saturday and give him a go. I wouldn't write him off at all. So look, I can't really find a bet to take on APlusTard with, but if you were saying 6-4 to me and I could lay him at that price, I'd be more than happy to. So that would be the way I kind of come into the race.
I've got to say, I think that Bristol de Mai will probably win, only because the Twiston Davis stable are in such great form, which is a huge plus going into a race like this. Where's the Doyle shilling here?
I know who we're all supporting. Lovely horse behind me. I'm not going to say, I don't know. Davy's saying it's a bit ambitious. Look, he's running the March Chase last year was a cracker. He split some good horses there. Wasn't far behind Chantry, Fusil, Raffles, Asterian, Phalange. So he ran a very good race on ground that I don't think was soft enough for him. It was good to soft here at Haydock, up and trip.
Barry, what did he beat now in that race?
He bet.
In fairness, now look what was behind him now, Barry.
He finished a couple of events ahead of Chamblou, who we all know what happened there. But if you look at the race as a whole, it's not a race. I'll be honest and say it's not a race I'm going to have a bet in. Roland, I think both of you mentioned it there about APlusTard's record fresh. Bristol de Mai, he can't keep winning a hit. He can't keep winning, can he? Full stop. I can never catch him right here anyway. I take your point, Mike, waiting patiently. He's just been disappointing. Next Destination probably has targets later in the season. Royal Pagaille, I'd worry about him anytime. This was last year, most of his winning was on heavy to soft ground. Slight worry. A worry for Imperial Aura. There's plenty here with question marks. He bled the last time we saw him. He was a horse I kind of did like last year, but obviously bleeding last time is a worry. I'll have the Chatham Street Lad flag out, but I don't know. It's probably a watching brief. I'm not going to have a bet in this race, I don't think, but I wish Mick the best. And geez, wouldn't it be great to see him landing a winner here in this one? but no bet for
Of
me.
course, for Henry, not only did he's got APlusTard, of course, let's not forget Manila Indo badly needed the run on his seasonal reappearance. Maybe APlusTard is going to be likewise. The only thing is we're going to have to wait until after 3 o'clock on Saturday to find out. And we'll also find out what sort of celebrations there'll be in the winners' enclosure afterwards. It depends whether a certain Mr. M. Winters does or does not appear in said celebrations. Anyway, he is our special guest this week. So let us hear from the man himself.
Champ.ie Podcast legend Mick Winters, welcome back.
Well, we said out to but I wouldn't fall for all the glamour that you're giving me, but it was nice to say out to.
Chatham Street Lads, Mick Winters, he lit up Cheltenham last December by winning the Caspian Caviar Gold Cup by 15 lengths, I think it was, with Midnight Shadow. It was an impressive winner, of course, last weekend. He was back in second on that occasion. I can't remember an easier winner making a competitive handicap last season, certainly at Cheltenham. What the hell happened?
Well, I put it this way, and just to make it some more glamorous, some more awesome, we shaking everybody by the tail. The horse to a second, so Smith Sauce. He bolted up last weekend in England in the Paddy Power, or whatever race it was. So, as you see, he was a horse that was always treated kindly, and I'd say he put it all together and rewarded us wholesale, and maybe at the time the English handicapped horses and the Irish handicapped horses, there might have been, well, it looked like for a while, and there was a big gap between them. Hopefully the heights and they rolled down the hill and he looked awesome, so maybe we're going looking for the dream again, maybe trying to believe that what happened before might happen again, right? But on the day it was something that you cherish, like, but he was a horse that was never had a hard race, got beaten in races, and might be 100% healthy at times or whatever, but on the day, I'd say he hit roller coaster and he rolled with it, and it was like young people watching television and these flying there always the English cameras kind of the double vision races more than the Irish cameras. They look a bit, it's like pale or something, but you're looking distant from a distance, and I was upset myself. And to be honest with you, I thought he would go over good salads or farm and we'd run well and everything else. Maybe this time his body looks more righter for a racehorse. And we hadn't back it up maybe if we came into the race and good out the last year winning race, right? But he has a race under his belt and he's a year older, he 12 months experience inside him, and we're dreaming, I suppose, but we'll give it a shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose, Mike, Galway hurdles, there wasn't much of a crowd at Cheltenham that day. Can you remember much about the race, the excitement? Talk us through it.
I tell you this, we're always kind of preparing for in racing. Maybe some people are a little bit pessimistic and we kind of prepare ourselves for things not happening and things. So we were happy enough. He jumped well enough. He made a mistake, I'd say, at the top of the pole, maybe. And he did knock his shake out of him. He came and he was a bit of a run. We had warmed the jockey to keep something for coming up the hill because after the long journey over, we didn't want to be very tired jumping the last and part in the heat. Do you know what I mean? So we wanted some bit of prestige coming home. So when I saw my jockey coming down to the second last and last, what you call it, we were saying, what's happening here now? You know, we were really, what you call it, gobsmacked with the run down the hill. So, as you say, it's something to do dream of.
Absolutely. And as I say, I can't remember a more easier winner in a competitive handicap at Cheltenham. I suppose if you were to if you were to fast forward into the festival itself, I mean, he ran a stormer at the festival, finishing fourth on slightly better ground against horses, I suppose, of quality like Chantry House, Asterion Forlange, Fusel Raffles and Shanblue. I mean, he finished bang there in the middle. He split them. So, you know, that must give you a reason to believe he could serve it up to some of these on Saturday.
Was going to ride the same races when he won in November or December, and he went to come out, and he was meeting more experienced jockeys, and this man, that O'Keefe, was clean flying, but that day, like, I'd say in his mind he was going to ride the same race he was on the inside, tried to come out, he got pushed back in, and look, he wasn't beaten that far when ran the storm, and Asterion Forlange came out and was hugely impressive in Ireland and the better ground afterwards. So, if you put all those together, I suppose, in the back of your head, that the little bit of that wishful thinking is there, because if you produce that again, and during a while in Cheltenham, the horse was over them, it was like a bit of going away in holidays. He was eating and he was enjoying himself, and inside the parade, he would have won in Dublin show, or whatever show he'd be at. But as the guys racing, he was probably carrying a bit of condition. So he mightn't be as bad to have him this year, but look, he's a year older, and it's easier to get old sometimes, get him ready or whatever. But there's no very positive in there. But you'll be just your gut feeling down there, and you see the difference. I see on the television there last weekend, Rugby was comparing horse that won a grade 1 and another horse that had much the same handicap lap between them. There was 20 lengths of a difference. You're hoping that that big gulf between the horse that was second in the World Cup, and hopefully winning his handicap, and he won well on the day and everything like that. But the realistic is it's a big gulf, and I suppose the betting market, and these are the punters, and they can tell a lot, and I don't see too many rushing in to whip this horse down to 10 to 1 or anything like that. So you balance it all out, and it's always a possibility with a horse that produced maybe bumps, but he got no hard race and Cheltenham that day. He broke the hill. He made a few mistakes. So if he got a run where he decided these fences are a bit hard done, I can't rubble and jump well and travel through his race and whatever, something. There's only 7 more in the race. They might not be feeling the top of the world on the day. And look at the 2 horse race of Rachel and Harry Skelton. Like, there was nearly no finisher. You're running for big money, so as you say, that they are taking our chance. The last time, Limerick, he probably been open, got his second win, but he was running on it in the race. So it gave me more hope that he should be fine for him, but he wants to be very, very fit and very better for it, because this gallop is a different thing to running at our speed. These horses, they're class horses, and they'll be going to gallop. But to me, my thinking on the jockey riding, Sean Quinlan is well used to the tracks named or whatever. I'd imagine you'll be hanging on behind, watching in front and stuff, and pick up the pieces, whatever is there. If there's anything to be picked up, pick it up. But you get into that race and you get stuck in from the start. By the time you get to the 2.5 mile back, you might be what we were afraid of before going to Cheltenham. But you sit behind and everything happening in front of you. God knows anything can happen in life or anything like that. So it's a good position to be in. You hold your feet in front of you if it falls there, and if it doesn't, God forbid, you'll jump to last and you come home, and you might improve out of the run after. So we'll give it a shout, and the owners play to them like they call the shots in the pair with this horse. If we go home, we don't like to go, I'm sure they'll say, look, they have enough to make the decision, but I'd imagine that by Ferguson, the dome will be very safe. And look, he's a bit of crack, and as you see, after he beat carrying the football and go, and with the last kick of the game, so if we are to win the race, I'd be imagining we'll be hitting very late, and if we're not hitting very late for winning, it'll be great to snatch a 2,000.
I'm not a Mayo man, Mick, but every now and then, I suppose, every now and then you get a slight emotional attachment to a horse. And he took the roof off the apartment when he won at Cheltenham last year. So I'm not sure what way the heart will be if he comes up, if he happened to come up in front or come there stalking, as you say, coming to the last. But in terms of the horse himself, I wanted to ask you, just in terms of your training, or how you like to train the horse. Obviously, last year he started off at 2 miles and ended up at 3. What type of horse is he at home? Like, what is his character, and what way does he like to be trained?
Well, I'd say he's smart because focus and maybe a pint of Guinness after. It's like a big million, and like he devours. He's a big sight. He kicks the door 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. You hear this train packing, belting the door. There'll be a bit of a vibration up and anyway, but you can hear him. He's saying, "Inspectors wouldn't they want to get up to drive me to go eating?" He's that kind of an attitude. He loves, like say, he loved to trip over. If you look out the van, he's loose inside the 2-seater van. Or the 2-panel van, like, but there'll be no partition. So he just free space, he's not tight inside. So he can turn around, he can see what's happening. He enjoys every bit stalled. You know what I mean? Like as the guards racing and, you know, as a big group, people that have different opinions and horses and racing and stuff like that, and the world has gone very far in those directions nowadays. But as regards to racing, you have, like, people are different personalities. This horse's personality, this is a holiday for him.
Is it what?
A holiday for the horse. He'll enjoy this thing over. He'll see the different surroundings. Little girl that's first time out of the country, she'll be pampering him over, and he'll be taking advantage of him. She'll probably give him a little sapper here too much or something. He'll be devouring it, like, but he'd probably come back better out of the room. Like, in the ideal world, we'd like to probably get another run after Limerick, just to keep your own mind that you're back and you're, because horses are definitely coming very right in the yard. This is a blip. So, but this fella, you could cross your fingers and hope for this. You never let us down as you got running anyway. So that's a big help as well. Like, you get the other horses there and they can produce that them out of the blue. Well, look, you can do the good horses they have. Well, I suppose good horses, that's what they do. They keep turning up. You know what I mean? And the difference is, I suppose, the things you see about the droppers, they're off of them in Haydock, but they're solid. Tops are solid, but this player's clever. And if he gets away with rubbing the second pins like they're out in the race, jump the first one, big always kind of, and second or third pins, he might just say, I test this out, and he gets a small bit of it. Well, he'll probably enjoy his race, but he'll be clever enough to mind himself, hopefully, and he'll come home in great form. The following day, I'd say, he'll be out to the paddock, and he'd be looking around, and he'd be like, the fellas take us away for a break. Be like, sometimes it's maybe for a couple of weeks later, people say it's good for him, right? So the same with discipline and the racing out, travelling out, and everything else. And that's why we send up that young lady as well with the horse, because she puts up, she's whatever, 6 days or 7 days, whatever. She does a few hours every day, comes in, these for the horses. I suppose dreams of Rachel Blackmore and whatever, and you know, there's very few get there. But she'll definitely ride winners, and with a bit of luck, and if they're hungry, they can go a long ways. So there's a lot of positives we got out of, with a bit of luck once horse comes home on piece, and you know, that's about life. But that's the racing part of it, that's the better part of racing. What these horses achieve so far, the owners, they have all their friends over there. They'll be treated by Haydock over, the VIP treatment for whoever is connected to the owners over, and they'll repay back sort of way as well, if whatever, to the general public, and that's that just makes racing very good. And if it goes wrong and we get our heart home one piece, everybody, and if it doesn't look, we just we'll all band together and work on it. So that's what the nature of the beast.
And you mentioned the horse. He's going on his holidays. You mentioned Abby, who looks after the horse. What about you, Mick? Do you enjoy your trips to the UK in the last year?
Well, let's not, as you get older, so there's no capital. You know what I mean? You look back and you see the different days. I don't look at any of the days that were good, because we meet them as best we can, and you might have it's just like looking at the television a bit. You're lucky it's from two sides. You can be acting a small bit as well. You can play the part as well, like, you know what I mean? And normally you get great value that in it. So there's no fear of us, but I suppose if I could do anything about anything, I'd like that I wouldn't take maybe, when things go wrong with hammerings or hospital bed, it's a lot of people, you need a tough skin for racing as well, because there is a lot of, lot of needs and hospitals and people in prison, but if you look at life in general, if you're looking at between the road, taxi accidents and sicknesses and everything else, we have to say that we're very lucky, and the racing as well, you have to shake yourself as well. And the days you be down the hospital bed, you have to realise that you have responsibility for more than yourself and stuff, and we all have to think for something. But there's no fear in me, we'll probably be arriving over there. Only one fella said to me already, are you sure you're on the right boat? But I said, I didn't book it. I'm an Ethiopian, I didn't even know her. I was flying over, I'll go on my boat, and his boat's taking a pipe, because I suppose, you know what I mean, that my wife is taking that pressure on the poor people when it doesn't go wrong. I'm afraid she doesn't always get holy water switched on.
I'd say it could be, if Chatham Street Lad were to win this weekend, I'd say it could be a competition for the Bowl Teddy Quail or the boys of Kilmichael. I don't know which.
Well, I suppose I know we wouldn't be asked to go snake around the track, but it would be very easy to tease me and Jackie, and we'd come up with something, I'm sure, and get back to Canton, I suppose. We'd stay 10 meters apart, and we'd probably, some poor old thing, you'd get roasted somehow. We'd be tough on one, but we'd feel hungry or something like that. So as I say, we'll live the dream, be life until we get there, and when the race is over, so as you see it, you pick up the piece if it doesn't work. I'm sure even that about it, and it's something to look forward to, really, at this stage, like they're going over in appears to be fair good health, and the horses' legs and tendons and everything are very sound to them, and the owners are VIPs over there for the weekend, and they'll enjoy themselves. So, as I say, if it works, $1 million, it'll be fantastic, and hopefully it's give it enjoyment and something to look forward to for the weekend.
Absolutely, Mick. And I need to get myself a Chatham Street Lad scarf. Before we kind of finish up, Mick, just a couple of, I suppose, things to mention. Sace Gold, a horse that you've always liked. She was impressive in a couple of runs last season. She is an 8-year-old. She finished third over fences. I believe. I know you think that she was always going to make a nice chaser. How is she after the run, and where would she go?
I don't know, on the run, the last time, I don't know what that's in the yellow race, like we see on the ground, you could hear the sort of plop to the ground for long runs, just tacky. And, the won the race had written out there in our schooling, like when she jumped into the home, and you were a nice surface there, swimming over, it's a different thing, jumping on tacky ground for the first time. So, she did point to point experience. We tried to take on to that. We couldn't actually get near the winner. She's a very, very good mare. You'd like to avoid her forevermore. But I suppose we said we'd give her a shot to take her on for the first 4 or 5 weeks to see was our 3 or 4 weeks, and it was the licking, We couldn't get it within the donkey's roar, as they say, but it means that we had committed to following the one in front, and it probably cost us second place. But I said it to them and talked them up, is there be a sub lads beforehand, and I think alongside me, and there was more excitement about second, who got taken and third in the finish. But tactics on the day, but you had to give it a crack. The other one is very good. Says hold the appear to come out as fairly well, but I find it's very hard just to walk the point where the race. I thought this year, I said, geez, this smell will be flying up, but to find the race for her next. You know, it wouldn't be the end of the world if we found a nice race and she finished place. Well, she was a handicap mark. You can go racing from there. But if she went out, well, you still like to give her pick a race, you would think she would play a good chance of winning. But there's fair competition out there. And look, please God, she's entertaining plenty for the winter, and I'd say when she gets 3 miles over the fences, she'll be probably at the best, but I'm sure there'll be a few down that'll be tracking after a little bit. But we've good jockeys there out there, and keeping a great enough today now for a local man, Tom Flynn. We won't go up in that place, and we were very, we're grateful for them and things. And Brian Hayes was come back there. We say he's back there originally from Bandon or Bankside behind it. Walked down through the years in and out the place. And his girlfriend Rachel rode the 2 times for winning. He had to give her a winner. Good jockeys. So we've no pressure on if one can ride or whatever. And as you see, we have this very good. And on the last note, I suppose Troy cut me off. Her CS goals owner. Was here in the I suppose about 3 weeks, 3 or 4, 3.5 weeks from maybe up a Saturday. And he spoke to my son about Preston or soccer club, and CS goal trashed up and down the yard, and he looked at her, and the man was as happy as you ever could meet a person. Was in great form. There's an amount of hidden work for handicaps and for everything. Putting off in a terrible loss as such, but it's a wake-up call if you look at it in a lot of ways. Live the full life. You know what I mean? And we're very grateful that to come across, that's one thing about racing, you do meet every sort of personality, like the horses, they're the same, but you meet great people. You know what I mean? You can meet disappointments in every life and people every day, but you do get the opportunity to meet an awful different people. And I'd say one thing in terms, genuinely was very lonesome when Trevor Hemmings passed away, and that we were over. You know what I mean? We were lucky with him. He was a good neighbour, and we did some little bits, but life went on without Trevor, and he went on without us, and whatever. But it just shows that's all about. Like, you get your run through, and you make the best of it, and you try and take one day at a time. And I love if this mayor could win a few races this year. And to be able to mention him a few times. You know what I mean? Because he there's an awful hidden work people when they get up there. It's important that they help out. So he lived a full life, and that's all he could do.
I suppose within the Mick Winters yards, young horse maybe to watch out for, one maybe that we maybe haven't seen yet this season. What's the one horse to look out for?
Well, there's one horse here. He's a half-brother of the floating porter. He's called Rebel Rascal. There's a nice syndicate together, and could be very special for a lot of different reasons. If this horse will come out, I think in time, he'd be big, a big slow horse that could win it, kind of maybe one of those big nationals or something like that, or maybe somewhere. He's a big strong horse, floating porter, has that daftness and goes on. This fella seems to sort, or he's like a good footballer, Morris Fitzgerald and Kerry, or one of them all by Jimmy Barry Murphy, maybe a little bit of class in him. So hopefully, but like he's only a baby at the moment, like he's cantering around the small field passing furze bushes. And like it's a big difference when you get into the real world. But the dream is alive with horse, and that's what makes most, like, you know what I mean, the cost of good with the money things, and just sort of.
Is he yet to run, Mick?
He's yet to run, but he's been named, so just the first step, but he'd be another 6 months this first before, and you know, he probably needs soft ground, so you know what I mean? But he's a fine, big, strong horse, and like that floating porter, I was there the day he won in Cheltenham, and he flows up and he's wild, he runs around the place. This old fellow's very laid back, but he's a good motion to him. Like people of horses as a store, like anything. But as I say, if I had to pick one to be good for a different reason, I'd like to spread his fish.
Great stuff, Mike. Finally, any advice for a man getting married in 4 weeks? She's beside you.
Oh, Jesus. Is she outside you there listening?
No. Any advice?
I think she'll be fine. I believe she have a good job and she works hard and she's very fond of you, so that's nearly as good as it gets.
We'll be down. We may be down in the new year, Mike, and maybe you can get a look at her yourself. And might give you a bar of the Baltady Quill. But look, Mike Winters, absolute pleasure talking to you again on the Champ.ie Podcast. And this weekend, let's hope it's a special one for yourself. Chatham Street Lad, Abby, who looks after the horse, and of course the Mayo gang or the syndicate from Mayo. The very best of luck, and we will talk soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay.
Thanks.
Mick Winters, really, what a great asset he is to a programme like this. Hope you all enjoyed that. As we move on then to the other big card, which is at Ascot, we start with this race over 2 miles 5, which will forever be remembered as the race which saw Altior take on Surname. It didn't do either of them any good, did it? The Chanel Farmer 1965 Chase, Dashel Drasher, Grade 1 winner Rex Dingle takes the ride for the first time in place of the stricken Matt Griffiths, taking on Defi de Soy and Lost in Translation. Not a bad little race, is it? Ronan, have first on this one.
Yeah, I like Master Tommy Tucker, Mike. Just quickly.
Jesus Christ.
I'm looking forward to the lads' appraisal of this, but geez, I actually think he's quite a good price at 5 to 1. Look, Dashel Drasher obviously has the course of distance form. He's 3 from 3 here last season. But he only just beat Master Tommy Tucker in the Grade 1 Ascot Chase. And if you go back to earlier in the season, Master Tommy Tucker hammered him at Haydock. I take it that was at Haydock, and this is at Ascot. But the race, the conditions are quite the same. Master Tommy Tucker has a run behind him this time, and Dashel Drasher doesn't. Dashel Drasher doesn't have the greatest record fresh, doesn't have the greatest record on good ground, and Master Tommy Tucker is okay on those two counts, and you're getting nearly twice the price about Master Tommy Tucker. Look, I thought he ran okay. Weatherby, he was quite free, but that was over 3 miles. He went off in front there. He probably doesn't stay 3 miles. Come back to this. I'm sure Paul Nichols has had this in mind for him as well. And look, I don't think the two ahead of him in the betting, Defi de Soil and Lost in Translation, I mean, you can pick holes in them till the cows come home, really. How do you trust Defi de Soil after what he did last year? Granted, the Philip Hobbs horses are running a lot better, but he's also coming up in trip, which is a question mark. Lost in Translation, if you read any of the Colin Tizard kind of previews, they're thinking about a spring campaign for him. They don't want to bottom out before Christmas, so I'm sure this is just this isn't even his trip. I'm sure this is a kind of a blow the cobwebs kind of run, and you can't really trust him anyway after last year. Master Tommy Tucker in a race that they all kind of have question marks, so looked a bit more solid than the rest of them to me, and I didn't think he was a 5 to 1 shot. I thought he'd be at least shorter than both Defi de Soil and Lost in Translation. So I like him at 5 to 1, Mike.
Barry.
I've muted myself. You said it, Vincey. It's a hot little race. It is a good race. I absolutely love Dashel Drasher. But first time up on good ground. He's a big horse, this Dashel Drasher. I don't know. Slight maybe concern on good ground. He won on good ground as a novice hurdler. I don't know. I just think Defi de Soil is getting weight. I think Ronan's mad as a hatter, going with Master Tommy Tucker. He is mad as a hatter. Defi Dazal has had a wind up. He was busy, obviously, ever since his juvenile days. And I always thought he wanted further than 2 miles. He's won at Ascot. He would be fine on the ground. And I think he's had a summer in Martinstown, so I think freshened up. The Hobbs Yard are going well. He's getting weight from Dashel Drasher. Even though I love him, I think at the prices, Defi Dazal, I think, is a good bet at 7-2. And stepping him back up and tripping. I wouldn't be surprised to see Defi Dazal go up and trip as the season goes on, go further up and trip. I wouldn't be surprised to see him at 3 miles before the end of the season. But I think he's a good price here. Lost in Translation is always a horse I loved. But again, I don't know. He's had more question marks than Defi Dazal. I go with Defi Dazal. 7-2, I think, is the bet here.
You think Dashel Drasher loves Ascot and will improve. Davy Boland.
Yeah, he does love the place, doesn't he, Mike? His last 3 runs have been 3 wins in Ascot, and I think he's gone up £19 from the first of those 3 wins. I hate saying it, right? Because if someone else said it, I'd probably slate them to hell and back, right? But I take a chance on Lost in Translation, right? He has a bit of a wind issue, right? The ground will suit him. I think the drop back and trip is ideal for him. Just those longer races seem to always catch him out. I think if you're going to catch him, you catch him early on this sort of ground. Now, you'd probably want a bit bigger of a better price than 7-2, you know. But look, as the lad says, you can pick holes in all of these. It's one of those races you wouldn't be surprised which one of the 6 wins. But, you know, I take a chance on him. You know, he's a fair level of form in some of the big races against some serious horses. And I just think that drop back, better ground, and being his first run, and Tizar's horses obviously running a lot better this season than they were last year. I'll go with Lost in Translation.
Okay, well, before we talk Troytown and Navan on Sunday, the floor is open for the rest of Saturday's card at Ascot, Huntingdon in Ireland. Anybody caught anybody's eye? Do you want to leave the room, or have you got something to say, Ronan?
I have something to say. I 240.
Hand up. Vince is a hard taskmaster. You have to put your hand up these days. He reminds me of Hamish Beaton back in the day.
I was just being polite, Barry, but not talking over me like you are there. So 240 I've got the Coral Hurdle. So when you see the price, sometimes you think it's too good to be true. I just can't get over the 7-1 about Song for Someone.
Oh, I agree with you.
First time up. He won this race last year. Won really well. I liked him last year a lot. I actually backed him at a decent price for the Champion Hurdle. I think it didn't work out for him, but he's a really good horse at Ascot. He's a really good horse fresh. He's a really good jumper. And he won really nicely in this race last season. All the talk is about this buzz. People are fancying him for the Stayers Hurdle, and I get that. He's lost the potential buzz, but Song for Someone's been there and done it here in this race. He's had a wind up as well. I just can't. How he's 7-1 and this buzz is 5-4, and you're having horses like Goshen, who might not run actually on the good grounds. You probably worth bearing in mind. But that mare Molly Ollie's Wishes, she got found out when she went into open company last season. She did it nicely against mares again, first time out, but she still got it to do here on the ratings. How you can have that ahead of this Song for Someone first time out, back at a course he loves with the proven record, really good jumper, 7-1, and that would be my bet of the weekend. So that would be for me. Yeah,
Vince, just on that.
He calls me by my surname. He does think it's a school, doesn't he? Yes, absolutely. Have you got one for us as well?
Well, I want to agree with Ronan on that. I actually looked at the price and I could not believe. There's a lot of hype about this buzz. He's very, very short of 5-4. Goshen, good ground. Ronan said it all there. I actually think 7-1. I'll let Ronan have it as his bet of the weekend. But I think he's way overpriced. And there is another horse actually that I want to mention. I just want to make sure he's still in for the race. Oh, it looks like he's been taken out, has it?
Just mentioning in that race, I think they'll all want Ocean to run, because otherwise, where's the pace?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Have you got another one to follow, or shall I?
Yeah, no,
get Mr. Boland.
Yeah, just want to mention before we come across to Ireland, Hold That Thought for Venetia Williams is down to run at Exeter at 1 o'clock on Sunday. I was really impressed with him last time out. Big raw horse, done everything wrong in the race, and he just had so much in hand last time. I would fancy him to go and win again at Exeter this weekend for Venetia.
Davey,
Hold That Thought.
No.
Have you anything to add?
No.
Top of Bowen.
Oh, he's a man of few words. I think I just got two of them. But anyway, that's Saturday. We'll turn our thoughts to Ireland and to Sunday. So the feature race at Navan is the Ladbrokes Troytown, one of the big races in Navan's calendar, 17 fences. We're talking at the time, we don't have the final field here, which is always a bit of a concern, trying to work out what's going to turn up and what isn't. Ronan, how much of your thinking on this race depends on what Gordon Elliott takes to the track?
Yeah, he's obviously going to have a huge impact on the race. Mike, I think he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 entries. You wouldn't be surprised at all if he wants to run them all. He hasn't stopped them before, you know. But he hasn't won this race in 4 years, when he won it 3 times in a row, which is interesting. I'm not sure, has Willie Mullins ever won this race? It wouldn't be his kind of time of year or his track, I guess. But I do like one of his horses here, Lord Royal. I just thought he could potentially be well handicapped this season off 144. He ran quite well in the national, well, not quite well, but he was 7th in the National Hunt Chase, didn't disgrace himself, and I actually think that National Hunt Chase could work out quite well. And he also finished 2nd over this course and distance. Probably wants softer ground, I must stress, and he's not going to get it on Sunday, likely quick ground at Navan at the moment, and that would probably just sway me towards a horse I just think is a bit overpriced on the back with these conditions. Mr. Fogpatch is there for Pat Fahey. Look, he's got really nice form in big staying handicap chases last spring. Ran really well over in the Scottish National and then won a Punchestown. Ran 3rd there in the Cork National. Just seems to be one of those horses that goes well in big staying chases. And on quick ground on 3 miles, probably going to get a quick pace as well in this big field. With a lot of these kind of making their seasonal debut, probably wanting soft ground. He just seems a solid kind of choice, Mike. I'd imagine he will take his chance here with the conditions that he's going to get. And around the 12 to 1 mark, he'll probably be a good solid each way bet with 5 places, 6 places maybe on the day.
Davey, same question to you. Would you rather answer this question when you've seen exactly what Gordon's declared?
Yeah, definitely. I'd imagine he'll run as many as he can. Loves to win this race, his local track. 2 of his that I do like is, I like Deafy Blue and Definite Plan. Definite Plan was given a great ride by Jordan Gainfords in Cheltenham on his last run. Unfortunately, Jordan won't be able to ride him anyway because he's out with a broken wrist at the moment. And yeah, Deafy Blue, but look, without wanting to sound too boring, it's just hard until you see what runs. But I do like that Deafy Blue and Definite Plan, either of those. Yeah, it's tough after that, really, to be honest. They're all well campaigned, and I don't think there's anything there that stands out that looks to have loads up its sleeve, you know.
And what about you, Barry? Anything that's particularly caught your eye? Because similar to what we were talking about in terms of the British racing on Saturday, Navan is currently described, as we're recording this, as good ground, which, often this has been running heavy ground in years gone by.
Yeah. I think Fahy's horse has a great chance. Roland, you stole it on me. Mr. Fog Patches. Sure, look, the good ground, given the conditions, he ran an absolute cracker, didn't he, in the Scottish National, and then obviously won at the Punchestown Festival. He's got up to 1-3-4, has had 2 runs so far this season, and was given, I suppose he was never really put into the race at Cork, I felt, last time. Conditions wouldn't have been probably to his liking there. Heavy ground, 3 mile forward. I think, given the fact that a lot of these in here will he's one of the horses in here who will appreciate the conditions. I think he has to have a great chance for Pat Fahy in here. The one of Gordon's that I'm watching his mark, and he keeps dropping. And he's a Cheltenham winner, Milan native, and it'll be just interesting to see when is the day for him. He's come back down to a mark of 144. When he won at Cheltenham, he was 141. Obviously, Rob James was riding him on that occasion, but his mark, he's obviously dropped a bit in I suppose in terms of the ratings. Last season didn't really go to plan, but he's just an interesting one to watch out for. The other one actually that I wanted to mention was Henry's, number 21, Elzanir, if I pronounced that right, Denege. He was pulled up last time, but he was running an absolute crack. He was a real eye catcher, I felt, in running. He was running a super race and absolutely ploughed the third last out of it at Cork last time. And I just thought he was travelling well. He was jumping for sport, and he made a crucial mistake, and it kind of knocked him out of the race. So I think the PU beside his name might, I suppose, might not say how well he was running on that occasion. So he's just won off a mark of 130. Mr. Fog Patches would be the selection, but I think an each way play on Henry's horse there, Elznar Denege, but just keep an eye on the money for Milan native. If he was supported, I think he's off an eye-catching mark of 144. They'd be my 3: Mr. Fog Patches, Henry's horse. I'm not going to try to pronounce it again, especially with a couple of wines in me, and Milan native. I think one of them, they'll carry my money anyway. So there you go.
And anybody want to add anything about anything else at Navan? Davey?
No, just Gorn on Saturday. It's great to see such a competitive beginner's chase. Obviously, the standout horse is Bob Ollinger. It's great to see him start over fences over 2.5 mile, where he was his only defeat, where he was beaten by Fernie Hollow. Ashdale Bob of Jessica Harrington's, Column of Fire. It's a great race. It's a great beginner. It's very, very interesting. So that'll be good to see, to watch him. Obviously, you wouldn't be having a bet on him at 1-3, but just good to see him get started off.
Punchestown's loss is certainly Goran's gain, as far as that's concerned. Barry, anything else for you from Troytown Day at Navan?
Well, I was just saying there in the Monksfield Novice, I see Hollow Games is I suppose entered, whether he will declare. Davy probably wants softer conditions, does he, long term? But he's certainly a horse that I think we're all looking forward to seeing again.
And Ronan?
It's softer.
Just not really as an Navan. Looking forward to seeing Journey with me, maybe in the first race as he's down in Big Talking Horse. And just quickly go back to Goran again if I can. Just look out for a horse called I See the Moon. She runs in the Mayor's Hurdle there, last race on the card. The form of her race there is working out really well. Clonmel a couple of weeks ago, the winner, Sean Doyle's horse Lucky Max, went on and won, and Lake Chad won this week as well. Philip Fenton Thurston's in again under penalty earlier on the card at Goran. The front three there came clear that day at Clonmel. So I see the moon up £4 for that, and probably much better treated than our new mark of 92, even with that £4. So watch out for the prices as they come up online Friday evening for her. I'd expect her to be close to favourite, and if not, I'll be backing her.
I see the moon as like Barry when he's had a couple of glasses of red. Let's go finally then to the nap and next best. Shall I go in first? Because I get complaints if I don't. The missus will want to know. Heart of the Lion, Huntingdon Sunday. Tom Callan, Alan King should win that. And one of the famous five. Yeah, remember 23-5. One of the five. Sky Pirate. Ascot 3:15 Saturday. Barry, your nap and next best.
Sky Pirate. The one that stopped Andrew Blair White jumping off the pier in Dunleary. Would have got great pleasure out of that. Nap and next best. Orby's Legend Nap, 7-1 each way. Let's start getting a bit of value in here on the Champ.ie Podcast. Orby's Legend Nap of the weekend in a competitive race, but I think he's going to go very well. Next best, I really agree with Ronan Groome. I think Song for Someone, 7-1, majorly overpriced, I think, in the Ascot Coral Hurdle. So that's my two for the weekend.
Davy Boland.
My nap is, I know I picked holds in him because of his reappearance runs with APlusTard, but I'll back waiting patiently without APlusTard, just in case APlusTard's, because of what he is capable of. So waiting patiently should be about 7-2 without APlusTard. And my next best is in the handicap hurdle, Ask Dylan, ridden by Peter Kavanagh at 20+1.
And he's looking at his crystal ball by the looks of him. Mr. Groome.
Song for Someone, Michael do for me, 240. Great record fresh, great record at Ascot. And I think he can put it up to the favourite there, Buzz. I think he'd be a lot shorter than 7-1. Touch wood by the time 240 comes along on Ascot. And then I'll go for my next best, 323 at Goran. I see the moon. I think she's very well handicapped.
Well, that's this week's Champ.ie podcast. Huge thanks to Mick Winters and to the three wise men and to Barry Doyle, Davy Boland and Ronan Groome. Next week is one you dare not miss. What have we got? The Ladbroke, the Old Hennessy at Newbury, star-studded 2 days, the Fighting Fifth at Newcastle, and the 2 days featuring the Hatton's Grace of the Ferry House November Festival. So 7 early nights, lads. Need winners galore in this slot next week. Hope you've enjoyed the programme. We'll see you next week from all the Champ.ie team. Wish you well. Good punting. Don't spend it all at once.